truth does not matter. There is only the power of men.
The first time the four of you sat down for a table reading, I know, Ben, you talked a little bit about the fact that Jodie really brought it. Actors don't always do that in a table reading. So sort of the first time you sat down together, Jodie.
That wasn't even a table reading. That was just in dinner, coming over and Jodie's.
I just can't help myself. I'm just acting.
She just loves to perform.
And we were kind of like, I thought we were just eating, but go ahead if you want to do the speech.
She did it as a musical, which was surprising. But
it was like a redo. She had these really like good actors make your writing better always. And to hear her say it was kind of, and it was this moment of like getting to hear this writing. Is it going to work?
It was like, oh, we're good.
It was, we're brilliant. Good actors make you look a lot better than you are. And that was the case with Jodie. And yeah, usually actors are kind of like, there's a sort of reluctance. There's a sort of an underlying, like, well, I'm not really committing to this. I'm just going to talk it through, which is kind of natural because maybe you haven't made all choices or whatever, and you don't really want to stick your neck out there. But it was definitely emblematic of Jodie's, the fearlessness that she followed through with. And we got a little peek at that early on.
Jodie, what do you have to say? Is that a choice that you often make? Like, do you, as an actress, do you love to sort of like feel it out in that way? Because I know sometimes people like to hold it back until the day.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like my emotions are just always on the surface. But yeah, I don't know. I guess, honestly, I was just so pleased to be at the table with these guys, like to come on a film of this size and to admire them all. And then for them to be like, do you want to come over and talk through the script and give us any ideas and thoughts? I was just like, oh, this is so lovely and nice. It's such a lovely way, such a collaborative way to work. So I was just very eager to please. It's the truth of it, probably.
A point, but when Ben and Matt, when you wrote Good Will Hunting, Jodie, I think you were 3. I think you were really young.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But, Ben and Matt, had somebody said to you back then, let's say the day after you won the Oscar, you're not going to write together for another 25 years. You're not going to write together again until 2021. Did that sound about right? Or would that have surprised you? And then why was this? Did you mine a lot of projects over the years? Why did this have to be the one?
I think if somebody said that to us, our first reaction would be like, we got another job.
Yeah.
Because we really wrote Good Will Hunting to try to get work as actors because nobody wanted to hire us. And so we wrote it kind of out of necessity. So we kind of backed into screenwriting.
And we have continued to work together all the time in the sense of showing each other our movies and talking about stuff. So it feels like it's an odd thing to think, oh, you haven't worked together. You think, well, we've done a lot of work together. Yeah. But this movie in particular was so self-evident. It's just the rarest thing in storytelling to come across this incredibly compelling true story about this phenomenal woman who did extraordinary things. That is the stuff of classic storytelling. So it doesn't take a genius to recognize this is an amazing story. And I think that's the only reason we got Nicole.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the only way you would have gotten me. Oh, yeah. If the story wasn't good, I would have just written these guys off.
But this was a project that I think came to you. I think somebody from your producing team sent it to you, and it took a while to get the rights to it. So, Nicole, when you were brought in, I'm just wondering, because watching this film made me rethink history a lot, because we see history through the lens of males. Like now I'm thinking about how stories have been told over the years, probably in our history books through the perspective of men. And I know there wasn't a lot for you to go on because there wasn't a lot written about her. I don't even know if there was a photograph of her anywhere. So how...
Drawing. Right.
Pre-photography.
Yeah, there was a drawing.
There was a painting of her, but then because of, obviously, with time, it faded and is no more, which I thought was really sad.
Yeah, but you're bringing that perspective, like how did you sort of color in the lines? And then also, if there is something that you could have, if there could have been a book written about her, or if you could have talked to her, what would you have wanted to ask? And what would you want to know?
What are you, nuts? It's probably what I would have said. And she would have said, yeah, I am. What would I don't know. I would tell her that I admire her bravery. And
you asked us for the first question was, where did she put her rage? I always remembered that.
Wow.
That was your first question.
Right. you know, and I'm all those movies about men, you know, in the past, I'm going to rewrite them all.
Are
From
you?
a female perspective. I am, all of them.
One by one.
Because it's high time. But, you know, I did, excuse me, some research. I had a lot of help with research, made stuff up because I knew she was a young woman. And, you know, young women are people and have personalities and friends and are good at certain things. And, you know, I read about what she might have been good at. And I knew she spoke a lot of languages. She was very well educated, but ultimately traded as, you know, in a land deal and treated like property.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was fun.
Jodie, what would you have liked to have found out about her if you could have?
It's quite overwhelming to think of having that opportunity. I would just hope that we've given her justice, you know, like we've given her a voice in a way in which she felt proud of, you know.
It's funny because I watch her performance and I think, well, you know everything about her.
Yeah.
And you obviously do. It seems to me like you know, you must understand everything because it's imbued it with such evident humanity and it's so fully realized that it seems like you have no credit. I mean, I guess that's the trick of good acting.
Yeah, well, I guess that's also is why you choose your roles, right? I feel like unless you get that instinct or that draw, or it, you know, it has to provoke an emotion in you. You have to relate to something within yourself in some way, whether it's like on the surface or not. I think is how you usually choose your roles.
When I'm curious about the dynamic of filming it, did you shoot it in succession because this is obviously in 3 parts, or how did Ridley stage it? Like, was it, you know, like for the bedroom scene, for example, did you sort of shoot it all together? And then how do you reconcile that as actors when you're making these different shifts?
Yeah. So the scene from the front door to the bedroom, we shot the hallway and up the stairs up to the bedroom door as one section, and then the bedroom was its own thing, and I think they were shot on separate days.
Okay, so you had time to sort of make that shift.
Yeah, but there were days that we would do different versions of, you know, because we were in the same location. It's not like we would return to a location, you know, because it's a cost thing. So we'd shoot 3 different scenes in a day, and they'd be each one. We'd have to say to each other, "Okay, wait, we got to remember this is my version or this is your version," because you're playing really kind of 3 roles. You're playing how you see yourself in one version, and then you're playing how the other characters see you in their versions of the story.
Right.
And also, Ridley uses so many cameras at the same time, so he shot those rape scenes in one take.
Yeah.
So watching it was like watching somebody getting raped. There was no cut and paste. There was no redo. Right. It was just from beginning to end. And it was incredibly moving and disturbing.
I'm curious, Ben, did you ever consider playing a different role? Did you and Ben ever consider, as you were writing it, playing different roles? And why did you, I mean, he's a delicious character and you play him brilliantly. Why did you decide on playing him?
I mean, 2 answers to that. One, yes, originally I had considered playing the degree part. Ridley had a certain window. I was filming a movie that was dangerously close to that on both sides. So schedule-wise, it was going to be tough. And also, when I looked at it, I thought, you know, and it's interesting. It's kind of been reflected. It felt like the familiarity we have with actors now, from social media to, you know, the access that we have gives us a kind of intimacy with them where we bring all this baggage to it. And the idea was like, well, maybe we don't want this sort of, whatever the idea of the like Matt and Ben in our long association, or why he gets first billing in that association, which is always baffled me.
Matt and Ben.
It's just it would like be brought to like that's what people be thinking about rather than the movie. Whereas this character was also very fun, and I thought, but fun in a way that was like playing somebody, you know, the effect in power, because I had noticed, you know, I didn't grow up knowing any powerful people at all. I didn't know what that was like. You know, I didn't. Right. So I didn't know any powerful people. And so I didn't know, like, what is it like to be at the fraternity at Yale? And this is the president and he's going to be a CEO of this or that. And then when I went and grew up and met some people like that, one of the things I noticed was there was a kind of, if you feel that you're just afforded this power by birth, by nature of who you are, by dint of who you are. There's this kind of glib, oddly cavalier sort of, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm just in charge of it. I make it up kind of thing. And rather than being a mustache twisting, I thought that's an interesting thing to bring to this. He's not aware of desiring to be evil and make bad decisions. He's just self-interested, like a lot of people, and sees the world through the lens of his own experience.
But didn't you, wasn't there an original Duel when Ben and Matt, you were kids, where Ben, you jumped in and saved Matt from a fight in the schoolyard? Wasn't there?
That happened so often. Over and over.
It happened once with this dude named, well, I probably shouldn't say his name, but he was 6'6", and I was.
Come on, say his name.
5'2". No, the poor guy's probably
some wonderful
guy. And we were playing football in the snow, and I said something stupid to him. I totally provoked him, and he attacked me. And I remember being on the ground, and I just shelled up. I was like, "This is going to be bad." And little Ben Affleck, 5'1", just flying through the air and tackled this dude off. And then everybody jumped in and broke it up. But I was like, "Wow, this dude will put himself in a bad situation for me." Like, I had to keep this guy around.
Second,
Still. Not by me, never by me.
I want to talk about the duel scene that, Ridley is obviously a masterful director at staging action. Maybe asking sort of each of you, Ben, as a director, what did you take from that experience with him? I think he said, which is crazy because he, directed Gladiator, that it was the toughest experience he's ever had. And then I think, Matt, he made you, he put you through your paces. He made you physically do it. No stunt doubles, nothing.
What I would say is that's his entire technique. The only way I've learned to do any of this stuff is just by watching people better than me and stealing from them and copying them and admiring them. And in this case, I really came away impressed with his style of filming where, he gets so much more done. It all happens at once. It feels alive as an actor. There's a sense of urgency. We're all on camera. It's not like you're doing your close-up and the other actor's texting, and you don't know what they're seeing. It's brilliant. And it was really exciting. And so I would like to, borrow that whole way of doing things. And because it's just really, I think serves the story really, really well. And the duel, we just knew this is like something that he quite clearly is brilliant at. And so we sort of said, okay, look, this is what happens, make it great.
But the duel itself, we had to change from what happened historically because it was very uncinematic. It progressed exactly as it does in the movie, from horseback to the ground, to axes, to swords, to daggers. That all happened, but we had this amazing stunt coordinator named Rob Inch and his team, and they choreographed this duel and beautifully. And while Adam and I did the duel, like the stunt guys were there. They basically walked us through, and it's just audiences are so smart now. It's really hard to get away with putting stunt people in. And so when the actors can do it, it's the best for us to kind of do the choreography. But it's really, that's all down to Ridley and to Rob and to that stunt team for kind of building that duel. I think they did.
And don't sell yourself short. Adam's a lot younger than you.
He's a lot younger than you. I was way more tired. Definitely.
One thing I think is phenomenal about this film is that 4 days later, I'm still thinking about it and still thinking about, that idea of, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And also the idea of, you're all actors where, with the exception of Nicole, where your work is constantly getting judged and people are discussing it. So you have that self-awareness. Oh, yes, you're actually.
I'm acting right now. I'm acting right now, by the way. So
that's right. That's right. But sort of, Jodie, if you can maybe talk about, and Nicole, what conversations do you hope people take away from this film?
I just hope it provokes thought amongst people. Personally, on a much broader level, I also hope that people are moved by this film. It's a spectacle. It's beautiful. It has heart. It has the stunts. It has so much. So ultimately, I hope they enjoy it and are moved by it. But I think there's a lot of important issues, especially in regards to Marguerite's experience, and hopefully it forces people to think a little bit more about maybe the actions that they've made themselves. I think definitely holds a mirror up to us all, which I think is a good thing.
Well said. I can't imagine adding anything else.
A lot
except we got to see this again. That's what we want.
Right.
Yeah,
Let me buy more
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
And just as we wrap up, a lot, of course, the internet has been talking about your appearances in the film, and I don't mean it. I have more fake hair on than you guys had in the entire film. But how did your costuming? Ridley is so detailed. I really felt it. How did your costuming, everything, inform each of your performances?
Well, Ridley sent us those looks that he was very specific about it. Ben can speak about his the platinum blonde about and how it and what it says and how it differentiates him. But the idea behind my look and that kind of mullet look that Ridley loved is the guy was remembered as a really savage warrior. Still today, he's remembered 600 years later. Very violent man. He loved to fight, and he went and fought for France whenever he could. And so Ridley liked the idea that he wouldn't have time for like a haircut. He'd just take a knife and rip the sides off and throw his helmet on and kind of go. And so that and the scar and the whole kind of look was really designed. Ridley had this idea along with our hair and makeup department, and they kind of put it together. And I like that. I mean, people, it's getting some grief on the internet, I think, but the idea is that it's not supposed to look good. The idea, I hate those movies when you see them and it's like, you can tell what decade it was made because like it's medieval times, but somehow the guy's got 80s hair and you're like, why does he look like he just got a blow dry? Like it should look like it did, like it wasn't professionally done. It's dirty. And these guys lived close to the ground. When Eric talked in the book about the winter being evil and hard, that's how they described the winter. That meant people were going to die. You know what I mean? It's like there was no guarantee we're going to survive a tough winter. Like these guys lived very, very close to the ground, and the look needed to reflect that.
For me, yeah, really is a very visual director and very specific and approaches things. It's interesting. Different directors I've found, like you can kind of identify if you ask them, like, what was the first job you had? It's from this editor, writer, actor, director, these women and men who direct movies can be, kind of are always, it's the way you always kind of are where you come from on some level. Like, you started writing, is that what you like as a director, right? Was your entree into it?
Yeah. I didn't think I was going to be a director.
Her movies are so literary and so, what people say and what they say to one another. I think it's what pushes them. And Ridley, as a production designer, a camera operator, has a very visual,
as a painter.
A painter, yes, and painted the storyboards. And he said, Max von Sydow, the Seventh Seal, I want him to feel Scandinavian. I've had this blood. At first I thought, oh my God, people are gonna, this is insane. But when you have a director like Ridley, who you really trust, if it's somebody who was their first movie, I would go like, I don't know, are you trying to make a joke out of it? Yeah, it would be hard to,
reject them completely.
I might, but when you work with really talented people, part of that process in collaborating is trusting them and saying it's going to work. And Kristen Berge, who made the wig, and the Italian people who did all the hairs sort of one by one individually, like worked really hard. And in part to try to differentiate us from what people's associations are with us that they have from over the years and other movies and the internet and so on. And also to ground it in some realism, the sort of bowl cut Caesar thing. And, yes, it looks a little silly now because, fashions and haircuts and stuff change. And I agree with Matt, it's like it was 77. And so it's sort of, it's the Middle Ages, but everyone looks at the Bee Gees. It dates the movie,
Well, you're so right. Like if you guys wouldn't have transformed, then it would have been the fact that you didn't.
Right.
It's like it's
Can't get a break.
Yeah.
The penalty for bearing false witness is that you are to be burned alive.
I will not be silent.